Okay, hi. I'm going to explain how you can set up the force photometry service in Fritz. So the first thing you need to do is go to the SkyPortal GitHub page. And if you do that and you scroll down, you'll see that there's a link to the project homepage. And on the project homepage, there is a link to the documentation. And the documentation is nice because it basically tells you all of the steps that you need to follow to set up your account and to enable the force photometry sharing. So if you go to the documentation, the way that SkyPortal handles triggering of force photometry is via what it calls follow-up triggering. So if you look on the sidebar here, you see there's follow-up triggering. And it explains the form that SkyPortal needs for you to provide information in order to set this up. So if you want to use ZTF force photometry, you have to already have an account. I guess a lot of you might already have that account set up, but if not, you can follow this link here and see the guide there to get an account. And the basic way that the authentication works is that the force photometry service has a shared username and a shared password. And then in addition, you have your own personal email and password. So if you request an account with the force photometry service, these two pieces of information will be provided to you that are personal to you, and also then there are these other two things that you need. And so if you don't have that, you need to go and obtain that first before you set this up. The other thing you need to do is contact Michael Coughlin, who can give you permission to set up a new follow-up allocation on Fritz. So if you haven't done that, you also need to go and do that step as well. Now, assuming you have got a force photometry account and Michael has given you this magical power to add new allocations, then you just need to go to the Fritz page. You scroll down and you'll see under Other, there is follow-up allocations. So you click on allocations. You hope that this doesn't happen and you see the page correctly. You should see something that looks like this. So you will always be able to see the list of allocations on the left. But if Michael has correctly set up your account, you'll also be able to see this add new allocation on the right. And so what you need to do is you need to have a PI. So I'm going to call myself Robert Stein brackets forced photometry. You need to set a start and an end date. And these don't really matter so much. So let's just pick some random date in the far future, probably in 2057. We're not going to be running ZTR force photometry anymore. Again, hours allocated, you can put whatever you like. The instrument, you should choose the correct one, and that is, of course, the Palomar 1.2 meter Ocean/ZTF. You should choose the group that you want to set this up for. So, for example, I want to do clue. And then there is this alternate data section, and that is where we need the information from the documentation. So we go to the documentation. I will copy this form over. And then obviously I'm not going to type my password into this video, but what you should do is you should go through and delete this and replace it with the user name and the password for all four of these fields. And the last thing you should do is you should share the data with site-wide group. And then you just click submit. And that's basically it. So to then trigger force photometry, you just need to go to a particular source. So let's just pick one on recently saved sources. And then you scroll down and you have the ZTF data here. And at the bottom, you have follow-up. So maybe you're already familiar with triggering Atlas force photometry, so you can see that's the default. But now you can scroll down and you can see another allocation. So here's an example of one I just made. So this is one where I put in my password. And you can see you can ignore a lot of these fields. So you can ignore the start date and end date, and program ID and subprogram name and exposure time and filters. And you just select force photometry at the bottom. And that's basically the only thing you need to do. Oh, and then also the start time is basically the period you want to run force photometry for. So let's say I want to run it from the last month. So that's from the October 28th to November 29th. And then I would just click submit. I'm not going to because this is a random source, but then once you do, the thing is submitted and you should get a confirmatory email, and then you can wait until the force photometry is done, and then it should magically appear in Fritz in about an hour or two. And that's pretty much it.